So, all right, so we're here with Jonah from the bunker today. Jonah, thanks for coming down, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so give me a little bit of a background on kind of how you got started with the bunker and how you came to be
Yeah.
running, an indoor golf place.
Well, how much time do we have? It's a long story, but no, I've always been involved in the local golf community. Played high school golf and then played collegiately and was captain at YSU for my last years there. So, um, always been involved with local golf. And a buddy of mine worked at Washington Prime Group in Columbus, and he called me and said they're redoing the mall and want to sit down with local business owners, entrepreneurs, and just get some ideas. So we sat down with Brian Kirschbaum and his boss at the time, Lauren Kelly, and just kind of brainstormed what I thought. I don't know why they were asking for my opinion, but what I thought would work well in some of those spaces. And we got to the old Jillian space, and I started talking about an indoor golf center. You know, the Dome in Girard had collapsed a few years before that, and we didn't really have an indoor place to swing in the wintertime. So talked through it, and they could see that I was pretty passionate about it. And, you know, the conversation ended, and they said, I think you should do it. I thought it was kind of crazy. I went home and told my wife they want me to open this thing in Jillian's and have a bar and restaurant and golf, and said it's never going to happen, don't worry. And then it was about a 2-year process, and we just kind of kept getting over hurdles that were in the way until we finally got to a point where it said, we said, you know, there's nothing stopping us at this point. So signed the deal with Washington Prime, and here we are.
What all does the bunker offer? Like, what are some of the,
Yeah.
you know, obviously you have the simulators and stuff there, but yeah, kind of what all can people kind of expect?
Yep. Well, it's a big space, so people familiar with the old Jillian's would recognize the footprint of it. It's 38,000 square feet inside and about a 6,000 or 7,000 square foot patio. So we've got a lot of space. It's broken up into 4, 5, 6 different kind of areas. So we've got a front sports bar. We've partnered with Double Bogies. So the original Bogies in Lowville there, all of the food comes from Bogies and their team. So we've got a sports bar up front with a dining area. We have a family dining area that actually right now is being converted or going to be converted into a fully walled off banquet room that would fit about 120 people. We have 3 other private rooms. So whether it be, I think we've got a cross country event there tonight. We do a lot of birthday parties for kids, but 3 private rooms, anywhere from 20 to 60 people in those rooms. And then in our back bar area, we have another full bar with 30 bar stools and some high top tables, a projector for viewing the sporting events, and then we have our golf simulators back there. So we have a total of 10 overhead simulators throughout the center, 8 in the main area, and then 2 in the private areas.
Do you guys do golf lessons there too?
We do, yeah. Jake Krugel is our, he's a member of the PGA, going through the PGA program, but he's our PGA Director of Instruction, and he offers individual one-on-one lessons, and then he also does a series of clinics based on ages and skill levels.
Is Ben Curtis still associated with you guys too?
Yeah, I mean, not as much as he was when we first opened. Ben was my college teammate at Kent State for 2 years, and obviously had a PGA Tour career, won a British Open. So when we were kind of going through the thought process of the bunker, I asked him if we could use his name. He has a Ben Curtis Golf Academy, teaching academy. And he ended up having an indoor facility built at the Country Club of Hudson, which is right down the street from where he lives. So he came out and taught some lessons at the bunker when we first opened, and came out and brought the claret jug and did some press with us. But he's not really there on a daily basis.
I gotcha. So talk a little bit about the simulator technology, because that's come a long way in a fairly short amount of time. But I mean, it's gotten really good and really accurate.
Yeah, it's we like to say it's annoyingly accurate. You know, you think you'd like to get a little forgiveness, but
Yeah.
I mean, if you thin it a little bit and you look up at the screen, it's a thin shot. Same thing with hooks and slices, and I find the yardages to be very accurate. I mean, they say it's down to within a yard now, so. You know, I don't know how many of us out there would know the difference between 151 and 152 yards. But, I think they're a lot of fun to play. We have a Monday night league, and, we play an individual game, and we get 30 guys just kind of like going out on the real golf course, and we play our own ball, and it's very accurate.
Is there a learning curve at all for folks when they first start to play on a simulator as opposed to just playing out on a course?
Yeah, definitely. I think the short game is the hardest part to adapt indoors. Everybody's a little different. I feel like I'm more of a field player than a technical player, so it took me some time, to feel my chip shots and my putts, because you can't obviously see it in front of you. So, kind of getting that feel down for a 20-foot putt. what does a 20-foot putt feel like inside versus being able to see it outside? I think that's probably the hardest part, chip shots and putting. And it's not that it's not accurate. It's just, I think, takes your eyes and body a little bit of time to match up the inside with what you're used to seeing outside.
So when did you originally get into golf? Like, when did you start golfing?
I've always golfed. My parents golfed. My grandparents on both sides. Well, my grandparents on my mom's side were big golfers. My grandpa on my dad's side. So I grew up around the game. I think my parents have a picture of me somewhere in a golf cart in my baby car seat. So I was lucky enough to grow up around it, and really got passionate with the sport around 10 or 11. I played Little League Baseball in Boardman, and it was kind of at that time where it was like, do you want to keep playing multiple sports or just focus on golf? And at that point, I loved the sport and have been pretty involved with it since.
Where'd you play golf at in high school?
Boardman.
Boardman? And
Yeah.
then you played for Kent State and YSU?
I did. Yeah, I started my collegiate career at Kent and played there for 2 years. And that's teammates with Ben, and we had a very good team at Kent State, had a great experience. We finished, at the time it was a school record, we finished 9th at the NCAA championships. And for a number of reasons, after my sophomore year, I ended up transferring back to YSU. And I had known most of the players on the YSU team since we competed against each other in high school, and had known Tony Joy for a long time, and just felt like at that point it was a better fit for me to finish my golf and academic career here at YSU.
Did you ever give a shot or any consideration to trying to go pro?
I mean, I had always thought about it a little bit in the back of my mind. I never got to the point where I actually committed towards that direction. It was always something that would be nice to be able to be a professional golfer and get paid to play the sport you love. But I think I was probably 1 or 2 plateaus away from being where my game needed to be to really make a living doing it.
Like, I entertained the idea of, like, oh, I'm going to try to, maybe just qualify for some mini mini tour events and pay and go to, and I did that, and I just blew a whole bunch of money trying to do it. It's like, but because the learning gap from, I put it like this: you could go from a bogey to a par golfer fairly easy if you just play consistently, but to go from a par golfer to, like, say, a pro golfer or a birdie golfer is such a huge leap. But kind of describe sort of, I guess how much work it takes to kind of get to that level.
Well, obviously, the workload is a lot. People don't really know just how much time the pro golfers put in behind the scenes. And since Tiger's come around, the physical part has improved immensely as well. Back in the day, Freddie Couples and Fuzzy Zeller, I don't think were hitting the gym after playing 18 holes. Now those guys, they're hitting the gym before they go play 18. They go to the range after, they hit the gym again. So I mean, it's a full-time job for sure. And I think the difference, like you were talking about, the best example that I had qualified 2001. I qualified for the U.S. Amateur Finals at Eastlake down in Atlanta, where they have the Tour Championship. And that was probably the summer that I had played the best. And I tracked all my scores and everything. It was, consistently under par in my tournament rounds that year. Got down to the finals in Eastlake, USGA Championship, and I had played pretty well. I think I shot 73, 73, and I finished like 98. I didn't make it into match play. And at that point, it was like, man, that was about as good as I got. And I was still... Now, there were plenty of players, when I look back at the results. And in college at Kent, we played against a lot of guys that ended up being on TV. And you knew some of the guys were going to be out there. Charles Howell, Ben, Lucas Glover. Those guys were always at the top. Luke Donald, and they were on TV. And then you had guys who, were not up at the top of the leaderboard every week who ended up making it. So, looking back on it, who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's, something that I wish I would have pursued and given it a shot in 2 or 3 years and seen what happened, but it didn't pan out that way.
I got you. What's the best tip or advice you could give to someone, just kind of in general, that's looking to improve their game?
I think the fastest way to take strokes off of your score is through the short game. Everybody likes to go to the driving range and hit the ball 300 yards, and that's awesome. But the 3-putt on the green, counts just as much of a shot as that 300-yard drive that you hit. So I think, I get asked a lot, or when I was teaching, I had people come up and say, "Oh, I'll take a lesson from you if you can guarantee me you could save me 2 strokes." I'm like, I can guarantee I'll save you 2 strokes, but we're not even going to go to the range. I could watch you hit 3 chip shots, and I'll save you 2 shots around. But yeah, I think that's the fastest way to improve your score is through the short game. Consistency, I think, is the key to the long game. It's not necessarily that you have to hit every shot 3 feet from the hole or every drive 300 yards, but keeping it in play, being able to get your second shot or your irons on the green or around the green, and then having a decent short game, you eliminate the doubles and triples, make a birdie here or there, and you could shoot in the 70s.
What's the biggest mistake you see a lot of amateur golfers or just golfers in general kind of make, sort of the casual golfers and stuff? I mean,
Yeah.
But what are some, like, I guess the most common mistakes that you see?
Swing what, like from a technique standpoint?
Yeah.
I don't think most golfers compress the ball, like maintain a wrist angle through impact and really compress the ball. You could hear a difference in the sound at impact when you watch or see the guys on TV hit it in real life from the way most of the golfers' shots sound. And it's kind of just a release of the club where it's almost more of a slap shot than a release of the club at impact. So I think that's probably the biggest difference in technique. And then, the full weight transfer and torque that you get. Look at somebody like Rory McIlroy. I mean, to think somebody shorter than me can hit the ball 360 yards in the air is crazy. But his length and his arc and his torque and shoulder turn and all that is just perfect. And I think a lot of most golfers don't get that full body shoulder turn and all that.
One thing I always tell, I had friends that took up golfing later on than I did. I played since I was a kid and stuff. So, but my biggest advice to them was always, and it was just in a regular round, like if you want to shave a bunch of shots off of your score, just focus on hitting the ball solid every time.
Yeah.
Who cares where it goes? Just hit the thing solid.
Right.
And too much I see guys getting kind of wrapped up. Like they get too far ahead of themselves, where it's just hit it solid.
Yeah.
Just hit it solid. Like they don't waste shots. Don't duff it. Don't hit it 6 feet.
Well,
hit it that way somewhere far.
And the thing about the simulators that I like, and it's I think annoying to people, most people play the game from a course management standpoint, I think incorrectly. They pick a club that they have to hit perfectly, right, to get the shot, to get the ball to where they want it to go. Where in reality, if you take an extra club and just kind of swing like 90% and try to hit the ball solid, you're going to do way better than maxing out a 7-iron from 170 yards and swinging like a maniac, and you're going to not hit it in the middle of the club face. And so I think it's funny when you get people on the simulators and they're like, this is off. I hit my 7-iron 150 yards. And on the screen it's going 127. I'm like, well, maybe your perfect 7-iron in the summer is going to fly 140 and bounce to the 150-yard marker. But, you carry your 7-iron 127 yards and it rolls 3 yards to 130. That's the realistic yardage. So I think it's advantageous. I feel like my iron game's gotten better, actually, since we've had the bunker because I feel like I'm more confident on my yardage choices than I was beforehand because you get that immediate, it's right in front of you every shot you hit. Carry yardage, spin rate. So it's pretty cool.
I have heard that a lot from pro golfers where they say when like during pro-am rounds where guys are taking out clubs and they're like no to get club up.
They're always short.
They're always short.
Always short. I mean,
so I can hit this. Yeah, like no, just
right. I mean, even the guy. I've got a good group of guys that I play with regularly, and the vast majority of shots are short. You just that's the way it is.
Don't let the weather keep you from working on your golf game. Golf year-round at The Bunker. Enjoy 12 state-of-the-art golf simulators, including numerous putt-putt courses, plus refreshments at the back bar and dining room. Visit bunkersp.com or stop by in person. The Bunker, inside the Southern Park Mall.
Kind of getting into some pro golf topics here. I guess sort of the ongoing one that's been way in the news within the last year is the whole Live versus PGA kind of thing. I mean, and I think it's still murky on what they're going to do going forward. Like they said they were going to partner up, but then we have no idea.
Right.
Like, there's never any.
I think the
details
deadline's coming up. It's supposed to be. I think they gave until the end of the year to have some sort of deal signed in place.
What's your take on that? I mean, on guys hopping to the other tour and then the PGA. I mean, it kind of I kind of see pros and cons on both sides of that.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I was not a fan of Live from the beginning. I just, I guess I'm an old school traditionalist. I like some of the long-standing tournaments on tour, not even the majors, but Torrey Pines and Colonial down in Dallas Fort Worth, and what used to be the Doral, down in Miami. I think you had long-standing tournaments that meant something to win, and I feel like that's kind of gone by the wayside, and it's just more about the money now. And now, I don't blame guys who left, right? $50 million or whatever it is. That's a lot of money that, it's generational.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I certainly understand why players left, especially guys like Ian Poulter. Some of the guys towards the end of their career were never going to make what they're making, on Live. I was disappointed in a couple. Brooks and Dustin were probably the two biggest disappointments on my end. I think, I don't know how much money do you need, right? It's hard to, but you're not in their position. But I think that moving forward, I hope that they come to a deal. And I would rather see everybody on one tour. I like what the end result has happened, though, on the PGA Tour with the elevated events. The purses have doubled, right, instantly. So kind of makes the PGA Tour look a little shady.
Yeah.
All of a sudden now you could pay $20 million a tournament instead of $7 million. So, where's that money coming from? But it seemed like that model was unsustainable, though, for the tour, which is why I think they were kind of forced into this merger. Didn't seem like financially they could continue to pay what they were paying over the last 12 or 18 months since they started those elevated events. So hopefully they work it out and get everybody back on one tour. And I think Live, the concept of team and exhibition type tournaments, I think you'll still see some of those. But I think you'll see some of the PGA Tour players be able to play in those and do maybe 4 or 6 exhibition tournaments around the world annually, but all the players competing regularly on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, I think like you said, I think as fans, you just want to see the best compete against the best all the time. And
right.
when it's sort of fractured and you have, in granted, like you said, guys like Poulter and the older guys and Lee Westwood, the guys who are at the tail end of their career, I understand why they go. But yeah, when you get with the Cam Smiths and the Dustin Johnsons and the Brooks Koepkas and the Bryson DeChambos, it's like, I kind of want to see all those guys, back at the PGA. I want to see them at least in that mix too, because they're some of the best golfers in the world.
And then you watch the majors this year. Phil at whatever 50, whatever he is, almost comes in second at the Masters. Brooks wins the PGA. Bryson shoots 59 or whatever towards the end of the year on the Live Tour. But these guys are playing obviously good golf. So yeah, you miss having them in the the tournaments regularly and getting to see them play against Rory and the PGA Tour stars. So I do hope they work it out.
So Tiger Woods, do you think he can make another comeback?
I don't think that he'll play regularly again. And not that he's played regularly over the last, but when he won the Masters in 2019, he played 10 or 12 or however many tournaments that. I don't think we'll ever see that again. I think he'll come back and play the Masters if he can walk. If he can walk, he can make the cut at the Masters. I think it's just a perfect setup for him. He knows the course better than anybody, and he's won it 5 times. And so I think I'd like to see him. Hopefully, I'm hopeful that he'll come back and play there. I don't know how much past that we'll see him.
What are some of the most memorable tournaments you can kind of recall? Watching kind of growing up. When you were kind of just developing your game. I mean, were there any tournaments or major moments that kind of stood out to you growing up?
I'm gonna pull out my golf geekiness here, but I remember probably like 9, 10, 11 years old renting the 1986 Masters from Blockbuster to watch Nicklaus win, his six Masters in '86. Tournament was unbelievable. He shot 30 on the back 9. Norman had a collapse and then almost birdied the last 4. And Tom Kite, it was just Seve was in it. So that's kind of my first major tournament that I remember watching, not even live, but looking back, remember that tournament. That's probably the first major that I remember. I can remember Tom Kite chipping in at Pebble, so I was probably 11. That was 1992 when he won the Open. And then since then, how much has been Tiger dominated, right? Tiger, even his amateur, his first USAM, and then when he won against Steve Scott to win his third USAM, his first Masters, obviously, in '97 when he broke every record, and the chip-in 2005 against DeMarco, that was a Nike commercial in real life. And I've got a funny story, stop me if I'm going too long, but
no, you're fine.
My buddies and I had an apartment on Carter Circle in Boardman, and for the Master Sunday in 2005 was good weather, early April. So we ran a wire from the kitchen on the 3rd floor down outside into the parking lot. We brought a TV up so we could sit outside and watch it outside. But it was in these bushes, right? For lighting purposes. Well, my now in-laws were driving up the street right when Tiger chipped in. So they're coming around the corner and we're going crazy, and it looks like we're looking at bushes. So, but yeah, that was a great memory, Tiger chipping in there.
Yeah, some of the ones I remember, obviously Tiger dominated forever, but prior to that, I remember John Daly when he first came out, and it was like, who is this guy? Because he was the first guy that was hitting it consistently 300 yards and, hitting the ball that far. And he was just, whenever he was in the mix, it was always entertaining because, he just was such a character off the course and on it, on it too. Him, I do remember when Ben Curtis won too, because it was like, oh, who's this guy from Kent State? That's that was up there. I mean, do you recall that one? I'm sure, him being a former teammate.
Yeah, and we were pretty close. I mean, we stayed pretty close. He was probably my closest teammate at Kent, and no offense to any of my other Kent teammates who hear that, but we had stayed pretty close. So I had actually talked to him probably about a month before, because him and Candace, his wife, was a Kent State women's golfer, and we were all close. So their wedding was the next month, was in August of 2003, and we had talked probably a couple weeks before the Open, and he was talking about my now wife Beth going dress shopping with Candace, when they got back, and I said, yeah, I'm sure, and then so my wife Beth was working at Abercrombie and Fitch at the time. And Sunday morning, I'm up watching it. I mean, I'm going completely crazy in my apartment on Carter Circle by myself. I had nobody to watch it with. And I'm calling Abercrombie, and we're not married at the time. Beth's not really into golf. She knew Ben and Candace, but, she doesn't really know the British Open from what I'm playing in at Mill Creek. But I'm calling, I'm like, Ben is winning the British Open. You don't understand. She's like, oh, come on, get out of here. And I called back like 5 times. And then, he made a couple bogeys in the back. It didn't look great. And then Thomas Bjorn in the bunker, and Ben makes the putt on 18. And, that was, I'll never forget that day. And the next month when he came back, and I went up to Windmill and got to see the trophy for the first time. And then he got married in August, which happened to be on what was the NEC World Series, the tournament at Firestone. So he was not in that tournament. It was a World WGC event at that point. So obviously he didn't think he was going to get in that event because he scheduled his wedding for that weekend. Wins the British Open. Now all of a sudden he's in the tournament at Firestone. So he played Thursday, Friday, played Saturday, gets married, have the wedding, and then goes back and plays Sunday. And he shot 66 or 65. I think he was winning after the first round. But it was just a cool, very, very cool time.
Yeah, that's guaranteed money at those World Golf. You get into those. It's like you finish last.
No cut.
You're making big money. It doesn't matter. You just get in. It's like you got to take that payday. So I should understand. I remember the other another tournament you won later on too. Was it the Houston Open? Maybe it was a handful of years later, but I remember
it was the Valero Texas Open.
That's it. Yeah, I do remember. I do remember seeing him do that and being really happy for him because he kind of fell off for a while, and it was cool to see him get back in the winner's circle there.
Yeah, I mean, at one point Ben had one of the best resumes for like American golfers under 40. There were not a lot of young guns at that point. It was before Justin Thomas and Spieth and those guys hit. So it was really Ben and Lucas Glover won a U.S. Open in 2008. Matt Kuchar was up there all the time. Charles Howell III was up there all the time, but really didn't win hasn't won a major. But Ben, in 2008, he made the Ryder Cup team. And at that point, he was, however old he was, a younger American player, had won a major, had won 2 other tour events at that point, and was on a winning Ryder Cup team. I mean, that was, so he had a great career. Obviously, the British Open was a life-changing moment for him, but he won 3 other times, was on a winning Ryder Cup team, beat Lee Westwood in singles at the Ryder Cup. I mean, he definitely wasn't just a one-hit wonder in the golf world.
So getting back to the bunker, and you
Yeah.
know, I love talking all this golf.
Yeah,
stuff.
I know. We could sit and talk golf for a while.
I know this is going to be its own episode podcast.
Yeah.
And then we'll split it. But yeah, I mean, sort of getting back to the bunker. I mean, how do folks get in touch with you guys? You know, and I guess one thing I wanted to ask too. So somebody that's just coming in, can somebody just come in like say right now, in the middle of the afternoon, come in, reserve a bay, and come play? I mean, can anybody just kind of walk in?
Absolutely.
Do you have to reserve ahead of time?
Do you have to? No.
Okay.
Now, in the wintertime when the snow's flying and it's weekends, we're pretty busy.
Sure.
So we always suggest, you know, if you can, book in advance. So we have a website, thebunkersp.com. So the bunker, Southern Park, sp.com. You can book online, and then we have an app. If you go into the App Store and look for Southern Park Bunker, there's an app, and you can book right on the app. So we've tried to make it somewhat easy, or you can call. You know, calling's always an option, 330-302-2399. So you can book them in advance, or, like you said, if it's Tuesday afternoon and you just want to go have some lunch, and when you're there, hit some balls, you can absolutely walk up and rent a bay. And we're actually going through and kind of redoing our pricing options. Right now, the way it's structured is you rent the bay by the hour. And it doesn't matter if it's one person or 5 people. You know, the prices are, it's $50 an hour in the evenings and on the weekends, and then we do half off Monday through Friday before 5 o'clock. So for $25. Now, if you and I are going out there to play 9 holes, it'll take us an hour, hour and a half. If we're splitting it, you know, it's $15, $20 a guy. I think that's fair to go out and play 9 holes. But if you're by yourself, even at the half off rate during the day, you know, $25 could still be a little pricey. So I think what we're going to do is come out with a single player option. So if it's just you and you want to come out, you know, maybe it's $15, you know, give you a single player option from a price standpoint versus doesn't matter if it's 1 through 5 people.
I got you. And so, you know, and obviously, you know, getting into the winter here, I mean, any special events sort of tied around, you know, football games or anything else like that you guys have coming up?
We do special pricing sometimes for football games like Ohio State, Michigan. In fact, I think that one's almost sold out. Last year we did something for the Super Bowl. We're actually doing, so next Wednesday, last year, the night before Thanksgiving was crazy. You know, the old Jillians used to get crazy. We picked that up last year, and it was packed. So I think this year what we're trying to figure out is, do we want to offer like a VIP area down in the simulator bays? And I think we've got it figured out. We're going to build a bar in between bays 3 and 4, a little temporary bar for the night, and have a couple security guys in there. So if you wanted to rent a bay and have your own space that night, you could still go into the craziness at both bars and in the back room, but you could also have a bay that we would you know, give you wristbands for. So something like that, you know, is an option, and we try to do stuff like that for bigger events.
Okay, great. Well, awesome. Well, Jonah, man, thank you so much for coming down today,
Yeah.
man. I appreciate it, and yeah, we'll do this again soon.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Don't let the weather keep you from working on your golf game. Golf year-round at the Bunker. Enjoy 12 state-of-the-art golf simulators, including numerous putt-putt courses, plus refreshments at the back bar and dining room. Visit bunkersp.com or stop by in person. The Bunker inside the Southern Park Mall.